Hello everyone, MessyPlays here, back at it again. How you doing today? A little bit different today. I'm going to do a review of a movie I just saw. It was Ready Player One. I'm sure a lot of people have seen this film by now. It seems to be pretty popular and a lot of people talking about it. I think the book was pretty popular as well. Sorry for not uploading many videos recently. I've just been kind of maybe a bit lost for inspiration. I have bought the new Far Cry 5. I'll get started on that. But some of the other games I was playing, they just didn't really take my fancy. I couldn't really force it. I don't want to force enthusiasm on you. So I do want to appreciate the new people who are still subscribing and still commenting. I am aware of that fact and I am appreciative. So new content will be coming. So yeah, this isn't going to be a list of problems or criticisms or anything like that. I'll try and have a nice overview of the film. I won't delve into spoilers immediately, but I probably will go into spoilers. I'll warn you when I do that. The film was okay. I've seen it twice actually, and it's one of them films where you think, oh well, that was okay, that was decent, and then I think the more you think about it, the more you reflect on it, especially when you see it the second time and you know what to expect. So you kind of watching it with more of a kind of, all right, let's see what's actually happening in this scene. And you start to think, well, that's disappointing. Like they missed the kind of they underutilized a lot of scenarios in this film. I'll go into that. So basic overview of the film is that it's a dystopian reality a couple of decades into the future. The irony is they were playing a lot of VR ads before this. One of them was just a kind of PlayStation 4, what do they use, the View? Or no, that's the cinema. I don't know what they use. They have the headset and that. That one was, come together, get connected, play online, get immersed in the game. And then there was one that was actually tying into the film. But the film kind of has a kind of, I don't know, it's very critical of this way of thinking where people are hiding from the shit reality that they're living in, and instead of going out and trying to improve it, trying to improve this ghetto life that they have, build a better future, build more housing blocks, they just escape into this game for days at a time. And one of the adverts beforehand was like, you're about to see the players, you are player one, directly tying into the film. And I was like, the film's kind of crapping on your technology here. So I thought that was funny, and we're definitely heading towards it. Like it seems inevitable. The VR headsets and that haven't seemed to have taken the world by storm yet, but I think once they get more, once the fidelity gets improved, once the kind of the fix the seasickness that people seem to endure, I think it's inevitable. There'll be one in every household. Like it'll be, kids will look back on us sitting in front of a 2D screen in a giant room and they'll think, what was the point of that? Why did you all congregate in this dark room to look at a flat screen, from 30 feet away? But what's the point to that? It is kind of, it's kind of funny to think about today. So people are, they mention like corn syrup drought or something. Various plagues, economic disaster. I think they mentioned brownouts, unless I'm imagining that. Brownout is like is when they mentioned the bandwidth wars. I think, I don't know, does that like connect with what's going on in America right now with the FCC trying to deregulate the internet? You bastards, if that comes over here, we're coming for you. They mentioned brownouts. I've heard this before, and it's not when you shit your pants. It's like a blackout, but blackout is for electricity power. Brownout is when the internet goes down. I think there's a South Park episode about that, and there would be riots. Like people pay their bills, people order the food, all the shops are shutting, so people rely on Amazon and stuff like that. So imagine a couple of decades from now, people would genuinely be lost without the internet. We're getting to that stage where we are completely reliant on it, which is why we're being exploited for all these prices and all these restrictions on it, regulations. So Oh God, I'm taking so long to describe this film. So the main character, I don't even remember the names. I'm not going to force remembering them. The main kid, his parents died in the bandwidth war. I think he mentioned that. Like, what the hell happened there? That sounds more interesting than this film. So they died. I think it's because they just didn't want a kind of a typical, oh son, when are you going to do something with your life kind of tale. He's completely removed from his guardians, which is intentional. I'll get into spoilers later, but you didn't want too much emotional attachment to them, I'll say. Yeah, his stepdad, as it were, even though it's not with his mother, it's with his auntie, is a bloody good rep. Chris Finch from The Office. Can't say that. Chris Finch from The Office. So he escapes every day to this junkyard where he's built this rig with the kind of 3D treadmill. And this throws up questions for me, because there's various scenes where, okay, you can run left and right. Fantastic, they've thought of that. But when he's floating in midair, why is his legs not like flat? Because he's not floating in the real world. So why would his legs be kind of dangling? Anyway, that's just me. He lives in a ghetto of stacked trailer houses. He escapes every day to this secluded kind of man cave where he's built his technology. They go into this virtual world through a headset, and they actually wear like haptic feedback bodysuits so they can feel punches. They can feel, getting... Well, that's weird. They can feel like getting their shoulders rubbed, but then they don't put anything on their face, which is where most touch would happen, isn't it? Like, they pass over a casino at the start, which is meant to be like this solar system that's basically just Las Vegas, and he's like, oh, you can go to the slot machines, you can go to the the craps, or you can go to the motel. Obviously, it's like, yeah, people use this for sex, but it's like, well, wouldn't they want something on their face so they could feel kisses, touches, anything, stroking your hair? But obviously that's a kind of, we need to see the actors' faces. So they just have these ski goggles that are transparent as well, so they can see through to the real world. They go into that, they escape, they completely disengage from the crappy real world, which is just overpopulation, hunger. Although this is a problem I had with the film, especially the second time round, because as I was watching it, I was like, there's a real non-commitment to how the real world is. You see a kind of montage of different types of people using the game. So he lives in complete squalor, and you think, fair enough, maybe the whole world's like that. But then you see that they are Asian. There's Asian businessmen, and it looked like a film like set today. Now this is meant to be decades into the future, and all the PCs were the same. They were just like BenQ kind of flat screen monitors. They all wearing suits, and it didn't seem removed from today's world at all. And it was like, that's kind of confusing. And then there was like a girl jumping around the sofa in a house. I was like, that doesn't look different either. Like, they've definitely been kind of non-committal to the look of this world. Like, they've settled on the slums, right? This is going to be an interesting kind of high stacking of all these trailer park houses. And then the other areas of the real world just didn't, we'll put a few drones and some cardboard on the street, and that'll be, they'll get it. It's the apocalypse, like a dystopian future. It didn't work for me, and it felt kind of confusing. Anyway, they escape into this game, and they need to find the guy who created this game, and this gets confusing as well. The guy is called Halliday. He's a British actor. I can't remember his name. He looks like Gareth from Wayne's World. I think that was intentional. Now, he created the Oasis, and he wanted to make it free. He had an intern who was the baddie. He's the Australian guy from Rogue One. He was killed by Bane. He's a good actor. He was an intern and he was coming up with all these kind of EA policies. Why don't we have a gold tier? Why don't we have a platinum tier? And then we'll have a water tier because we called it the Oasis. And Halliday is like, yeah. I'm thinking about this girl. So he was obviously not financially motivated. He was this kind of, what's the word? Philanthropic guy. I'm sure that's like the London Orchestra or something. He was completely non-financially motivated and wanted to make this world free, I guess, to connect everyone. And this other guy was kind of like, money. So we have a kind of a weird recollection of events that transpired. And actually thinking about it, it confuses me. Simon Pegg is his best friend, and they developed it together. But then Halliday signed Simon Pegg out of the company, and I think it's because he married a girl he likes. But they don't really go into that. Like, they do say, this is mild spoilers, at the end he lost his friend, and that's what disappointed him the most. But that's confusing to me. Anyway, he built this oasis. It's worth $500 billion. And he wants to give it away, or he wants to kind of entrust it to somebody who's going to have his best interests at heart and not just want to exploit it. The main villain, who is Ben Mendelsohn, that's what he's called. He wants to, riddle it with ads. He's kind of like Mark Zuckerberg. He wants to collect your data. He says something like, we can fill the person's field of vision with 80% of ads before we induce seizures. So that's where they're heading with it. He runs a company called the IOI, who are the second most profitable company in the world. I think Oasis is first. This doesn't make sense to me though, because Oasis is its own company. Who's running it now? Is Simon Pegg still running it? Because, I'm getting confused. So he wants to just give it away. Fuck whoever's working there right now or whatever they're doing. IOI wants to run it to, make money off it. Everyone who jacks in wants to run it because it's like a lottery. It's like winning the lottery, the biggest lottery of all time. Very, very Willy Wonka-esque, basically. Eccentric, rich, completely resource-filled industrial man wants to give away everything to one lucky participant, and everyone wants to get their hands on it. Everyone's participating. So inside this virtual world where everyone jacks in, they take on avatars that seem to be licensed from every company on the planet. They don't really explain how that works. Maybe it's kind of like a VR chat thing going on where people just make their own mods and they're kind of unregulated. They're not really looking at it. Or it's an official thing. They don't explain that thing. That's way too nerdy to explain. You get a lot of cameos from kind of Street Fighter characters. Back to the Future is a big one. They call something the Zemeckis Cube. Zemeckis is obviously the director of Back to the Future. That felt a little boys club to me. I thought, Zemeckis doesn't even sound like Rubik's. Why not make it the Omega 13 from Galaxy Quest? Now there's a real nerd reference, and that does what the Zemeckis Cube does in the film, which I won't spoil. Monty Python, that was a good reference. It kind of pissed me off that he didn't do the countdown. It's like, you kind of take an Easter egg and just take the surface level of it. Everyone's heard of the Holy Hand Grenade, but the Book of Armaments stated you had to do a countdown. Now that would have been a real Easter egg. That would have been a real reference, that you had to do the countdown or else it didn't go off. Anyway, that's real nerd shit. So everyone's trying to win this company. To do so, there's 3 challenges that aren't really, visible. They're very, very hidden. The first one, which was discovered after a few years, is a race. A really, really hard to win race. Probably seen it in the trailers. There's like, what do you call it? Like big swinging balls smashing the road. There's a T-Rex from Jurassic Park. There's King Kong jumping over the rooftops. King Kong looked amazing in this. This is like, I've seen Skull Island, but the way he moved in this, it was so frenetic and like so fast. I was really surprised. Like, this is really damn good directing by Steven Spielberg. Like, I think he's been on a bit of a lull, and even everyone screams about Tintin and The Big Friendly Giant. Really, this for me was like a bit of a comeback for him in the directing sense. Like, this was really, really well directed. So the first one is a race, and the feeling of the movie is less about challenge and more about kind of emotion. Like, he gives you these clues, but you've got to kind of think with portals. You're not meant to take them literally. It wasn't a race you're supposed to win in the traditional sense. You're supposed to kind of think outside the box. I mean, this isn't a major spoiler, but it kind of works out via looking into the history of the creator of this reality, that you need to drive backwards, and which I would have figured out that is something people have picked up upon is that anyone who's played Trials, is it Infusion or Evolution, the first thing you do is reverse, because at the start of every one of those races there's an Easter egg. Some damn good ones as well, and every single track you reverse to find out what it is. Someone would have done that. I do agree, somebody would have done that. I think instead of that collapsing path which somebody would have discovered, you should have had to drive through the wall at a specific speed, because think about it like kind of in Harry Potter, when you got to run through the wall, you've got to really commit to it. Or Indiana Jones, when you got to cross that bridge, it wasn't about doing it safely. It was about doing it, instinctively and completely trusting that you are right in this theory. So you have to do it at some speed. I think, maybe not reference Back to the Future again, but you'd have to go at least, 80 miles an hour in reverse, you soup up his car and get through that wall, because people were so afraid of dying inside this game. Not because you couldn't respawn, but it was kind of like a Dark Souls thing, a thing where you lose all the money you've collected, you lose all the gear you've collected. It's a huge loss to die inside this virtual reality, so people were avoiding it as best they could. So to potentially die, people might not have taken that risk, and I think that would have been a cleverer way to disguise the fake wall. So that was the first challenge. You get to the key and you get a clue after that. The next scene, I think I'll say from now on, this is going to be kind of spoiler territory. So if you want to see the film, this hasn't been teased in the trailers or the reviews, I think, so you probably want to duck out now. The next scene is they actually kind of step into an old movie, which is The Shining. The bandy about this, long known story of Stephen King hating the adaptation of The Shining. I wondered how he felt about that, because it's like it's things he said a couple of times. I think everyone knows about it, and he had a weird relationship with Stanley Kubrick. Like, Kubrick would call him at like 3 a.m. He'd be like, Stephen, do you believe in God? And Stephen was just like, what the fuck, can you just make this film, please? He saw the film, he hated it because it changed so much of his book. Then he tried to do an adaptation on TV, and everyone was like, wow, this is shit. But Stephen King is a genius, he can do what he wants. But there's one thing kind of saying that in interviews, and he's probably went back on that a bit maybe today, I don't know, because it's a classic film. It's a well-loved film and a well-loved book. But to have it officially stated in the film is like, oh yes, and Stephen King hates that film. I was like, wow, I wonder if they asked him about that. So they step into The Shining. This gets quite intense. This is a 12A in the UK, but that, anyone under 12 can see with an adult, and most kids go with the adults anyway. Most because it's not advertised in the trailers. You're probably not expecting anything kind of intense and scary in this film. You probably think most of it's going to be, Back to the Future references and Overwatch and stuff like that. But this scene gets kind of intense. Like they've got the blood in the hallway coming out of the elevator. They've got the naked woman in the bathtub, and she turns into a zombie, even though in the film she could just kind of, I can't remember exactly, but I think her skin just kind of peels off. They've got the axe scene, although you don't see Jack Nicholson, you see him hobble about. The chase through the snowy maze hedge, it's quite intense. And I was like, wow, I'm surprised. Like, they went for it. I didn't know they would be able to show that much blood in a 12A. After that, I won't go too much into detail about every element of the movie, but they get the key from that. The third challenge is a big all-out war scene. It's very kind of Helm's Deep. Some of my problems with this was that it was the build up to it, and a lot of characters from different franchises arrive, but then they're never really utilized. There's a really good scene involving Chucky. I won't spoil that. It's a cool moment, but it's like, wow, okay. If you've got like, I don't know, Chun-Li or Lara Croft or, you know, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, why not give them like a second so we actually see them in a context where, you know, it's like, it's not just noticing them. Because the overview of that battle is so, it's so pulled away that you don't really actually see anything happening. You see kind of missiles flying across the screen, but there's no actual combat going on because you barely see anything. You see the car moving through the crowd, but I never saw like specific characters that I recognize using their specific kind of skill set. And I thought, well, that was just kind of like a lost, like some lost potential there. Because I heard like Sonic's in the crowd, and I was like, well, that would have been cool to see him rolling through and bouncing around, but I don't want to just like look and squint into the background to notice that. Like, if you have these things, utilize them in a way where they're effective. I don't know, it just felt like lost opportunity. In the end, gets very, very generic. It's like, we've got to use the spell to deactivate the shield. And if you've noticed, I haven't mentioned the kind of love subplot, and it's like, it is such a forced subplot which doesn't organically fit in the film. One of the core characters that comes into play is a girl called Artemis. It is a real cringe-worthy element where he falls in love with her avatar, even though she barely says anything to him of any substance. He's been kind of stalking on her because he recognizes her from Twitch streams or something like that. And they go full 100% with this. She even tries to say to him, look, you're living in the fucking clouds. You don't know who I am. Like, I'll show you the side I want you to see. And I thought, well, that's a good message. And then they just kind of backtrack on that. And it's like, after 10 more hours together, oh, we are in love. I found love and we are in love. And it's like, what? No, the message was, you know, falling in love with these people through these fake connections online is actually not healthy, and it's probably not something you should do. You should look at these people objectively and realize that Instagram profile with all these airbrushed, you know, selfie snaps or whatever, they're not the true representation of their character. They had a good message to start with, and I thought the good way to end this would that they become friends. Maybe the start of something, but they actually jump ahead to the end of something. She also has like this point of, you wouldn't like me in the real life. I'm not what you'd expect, you know. Real kind of oh, I'm damaged feeling going on, and she has like the most faded birthmark over her right eye in the kind of the most, I don't want to say sexy, but it's like the most artistic way imaginable. And I was like, that's a cop out, because some birthmarks on people's faces are, you know, horrendous. Like, I'm not criticizing them, but it is what it is. Like, it doesn't just look like a flat piece of makeup. Oh, no. Like, it looks like the skin is raw. And I'm just like, don't do that. Like, don't bring that up, but like, you know, make her sexy with it. That's God, I need to get my words right here. Be true to it, you know? Like, maybe she would feel really self-conscious about this thing. And he could see through that, a good person would see through that. But by you're making it really, 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 really faded, it felt like it felt like a Hollywood version of it. Whereas like that's a bad message. Maybe she should have been really overweight. Like something where it wasn't just oh God, I'm so ugly. When it's like, no. You don't get to play that. You don't get to play that one. So I was disappointed with that. Yeah, that whole love element is completely forced. It's inorganic. It's cringeworthy. They're talking about being in love. The characters barely interact. They're more like teammates. It'd be like playing around a Halo and then getting a message. I think there's an example of this online where it's like, oh my God, you're a girl. I just wanted to tip my hat to you and say hi, and I'm not like other guys. I'll wash the dishes for you. That's exactly how his character acts in this. And they kind of were self-aware of it earlier on, and then they're just like, no, we're steamboating 100% ahead with this. They're going to be in love. They're going to be a couple. It's like, what? They end up hooking up. His best friend. Well, it's a funny twist. I guess we're fully into the spoilers, but is huge kind of. It's like a cave troll height. Alpha male friend is really a female in real life. I could guess by the voice. Maybe it's because I do voice editing and stuff like that. I could hear through the voice, the actual quality of the voice. Because they put like vocoder filters on it and stuff, you can barely hear what she's saying because they're trying to mask her gender so much that you can actually barely understand what she's saying. It's a big twist when they meet up in real life, and she's obviously a woman. Two of his friends are one's 11 years old. One of them, oh God, it's like an Asian teenager, but I'm sure he does like some karate moves. It's like, Jesus, Steven. I don't know. Apparently they're more fleshed out in the book, but it's fun. But you'd watch this film again, you think, no, I'm seeing the flaws in this. I think the best relationship is between the creator of the Oasis and the main character. I can remember the girl's name was Artemis. I just cannot. Percival. He's called Percival. There you go. I did remember something. So Percival and Halliday, they have the best relationship. I feel like the moral of the story is play something to enjoy it, not just to race to the ending. If you play games, maybe it's fun to just soak in the experience and not be like, oh God, I just need to get through this. I need to finish it. I need to get the high score. His appreciation of things was like that. I think the hint that he's maybe got Asperger's or he's on the spectrum a bit, because he's like, I can't understand people, but I can understand the relationships people could have between, games and me. Like, I understand why they work. I thought that was nice, and he puts in a nice performance. A bit weird that he's hanging around with a young person of himself. I think it's to imply that he never had children, so that's who he's been paternal to. That's his fatherly figurely influence over himself as a young child. There's obviously a lot of stuff from the 80s and 90s in this, which is coming back. We're getting into 90s coming back. I think people might think, well, that doesn't make sense when it takes place in like 2070 or whatever it is. I think it's about 2050. It is what it is, They wanted to get Van Halen in there, and who are the other guys with the mustaches? Oh, whatever. What are they called? Never mind. The film's a fun time. I wanted to see it with my family because I thought they'll love this. And they did. I saw it with 3 women, all different ages, and they absolutely loved the film. And they were kind of sitting in the car afterwards, and it was just like, yeah, did you see that? That was, they thought it was a bike from Tron, and I didn't want to go nerd, Actually, it was Akira. get out of the car, you know. But yeah, I thought, oh, that's fun, because a lot of people are picking up on things maybe from their childhood, and they notice those things. Like, I've never played Overwatch, but I know one of the characters from Overwatch. My sister watches Serenity, and I've never seen that, and she's like, the ship from Serenity was in it. I was like, wow, this is cool. We've all picked up on different things, so I think experiencing it was more fun than actually watching it as a film. I think if I watched it again, maybe like alone, just to enjoy the film, I don't know if I'd enjoy it that much. I think the plot holes in it, in the plot contrivances, the cliche stuff, would really bring it down even more. Like, I really don't like that romance subplot. I think it ruins the film. The friendship stuff is good, but it's not really fleshed out. The guy, the evil villain, he's so, like, he's meant to be a kind of transparently CEO-esque villain, you know, a kind of cliche one from 80s films, and it is what it is. It's nothing we haven't seen before. So I would say, if you're going as a group experience, maybe with family, people who grew up in the 80s, you'll get a kick out of it, but don't expect a really, really good film. I would give it a strong kind of 6.5 out of 10. I would recommend seeing it. You know, I've seen it twice because I just thought, wow, that's good enough to see twice. But like I said, it's not amazing or anything. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. Sorry for waffling on a bit. I hope I covered all the main points. I will be uploading some more videos soon. Really sorry I haven't been on that, but I'll try and get back on track. Like I said, look forward to Far Cry 5 soon-ish, if I can find a memory stick. In any case, take care, have a good day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, guys.